these Recusant 9 transmissions in this format. What we come back with, I have no idea yet, but this will be the last one in this way. I can't believe it. It wasn't the Conservatives. It definitely wasn't the Independents. It was the Liberal Democrats. It was Councillor HAZEL GLOSTER who stood up and walked out of a council meeting disgusted at the ongoing cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of this town's children. Who would have believed it?
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. Sunday, the 17th of December 2023. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to Lee, Marlene and Aztec Shaman, who have just joined us as the credits started. This is the last Recusant 9 Sunday night transmission of the year, and it's the last of our transmissions in this format. Unfortunately, we've had a whole host of issues and we're just not getting the traction we need, so it's not going well, I'm afraid, but we are where we are. We'll get this transmission out of the way. I will go away over Christmas, work on how best to engage, how best to continue to campaign, how best to get the information out there, and there will be a revised format come the new year. Very timely, really, because the council meeting that took place on Wednesday, all of the drama combined over all of the years took part in that council meeting, added with what we have all been wanting to see. A councillor standing up and refusing to take any more and marching out of a council meeting and telling the mayor, in this instance the mayor was Dr. Zahid Chowan, essentially to get stuffed. She wasn't sitting through any more of this nonsense. She wasn't sitting through any more of the activities of this cover-up council. And of course that councillor was the Liberal Democrat HAZEL GLOSTER. I found it remarkable what took place. By the time this had happened, of course, the meeting was taking place in what I refer to as the bunker, because the main meeting had been suspended as a consequence of some issues in the public gallery involving Mr. Peter Brown and I think some pro-Palestinian protesters, and I will get to that in a moment. So I will work my way through this last week's council meeting the best way I can, and I'll talk through it. If you have any questions, by all means post them up there. This is, as it's the last of the year, I just put it free to air, so by all means please like, please share. And if the transmission freezes, my internet still isn't right, if the transmission freezes, I'm hoping I have worked out how simply to reconnect to this exact same stream, so you shouldn't have to go anywhere apart from maybe wait a couple of minutes whilst my hub reboots itself. So let me bring it up. And let's start. Hiya David, hiya Pauline. Nice of you to join us. The Youth Council have just finished talking. I've paused it there because this was the full council chamber as you see it. So in terms of public attendance, very few people had attended. One of the guys with the Palestinian flag is there behind Nazrul Islam, as you can see. He is absolutely nothing to worry about, not that I know of anyway. His father is my cousin. I've known this lad since he was a child. Very keen activist. He's a keen activist in coal dust, and rocked up, I think about 6 weeks ago, to Councillor Abdul Jabbar's house with a loudhailer, wanting to know why he wasn't supporting a ceasefire. So that's why he's turned up there. The 3 Asian ladies in the corner, or the 4 Asian ladies in the corner, are linked to one of them their husband is in Gaza. So that's what's took place there. There's Peter Brown, and also I can't work out who's on the, is that Amoy on the end, and at the front is Muhammad Ali, who got a staggering 189 votes, a complete pain in the arse, if I'm honest, at the last election in Coldest. He's a waste of time, and I tell him that to his face. He's a complete and utter waste of time, likes the attention. I don't know why some of you entertain him, and he'll have strategically sat himself there so he can appear on the feed. And next to him is Meg Ryan, is it Meg? Meg Birchall, Meg Ryan. Meg Birchall, I think it's fair to say, the transgender councillor, parish councillor. Okay, you can see the rearranged sitting because now the Liberal Democrats are the official opposition, and Graham Sheldon has been moved to the back. Now we start with public questions. Now I'll play through public questions, and you will see again what's happened. Apart from the first question, and then towards the end, the Labour Party have hijacked public questions with councillors, former councillors and councillor candidates filling up the public questions. This is an attempt to sabotage public questions. Remember, AROOJ SHAH, the Pakistani leader of Oldham Council, who sat at the front there, has already reduced public questions from half an hour to 15 minutes, in my opinion, because this gangster affiliated leader with links to money launderers and heroin dealers and accomplices of the killers of police officers is sat there at the front, and she's already reduced the council public questions to 15 minutes. Next there is Abdul Jabbar, as you can see. So let's get on with public questions. Good evening to some of our latecomers. Good evening, Susan, Sue, and of course good evening to Julie. You'll also see missing in the public gallery is Maggie Hurley's big team. Jeanette Rowe, Graham Rowe and John Hughes, who have been frequent attenders at the council meetings, are now no longer in attendance. You'll have to ask Big Team Hurley and Mark Mintz, who's at the corner behind everyone at the back, where his big team is. You'll have to also ask him a number of other questions, which we will get to.
Item 8, public questions. So we have 15 minutes. This part of agenda is public questions, where council will consider all questions submitted in the order received. Once this time limit expires, no further questions will be asked. There is no right of reply to answer given. I will be reading out the question. If the time limit has expired and a member of the public has submitted a question, the response will be published on the council's website. The first question has been received from Pat Haley. Please, could the council give serious thoughts to the sitting and funding, including maintenance of 2 AEDs, automotive external defibrillator, in the 2 of borough's largest parks, Tender Hill Park, Ryton, and Alexandra Park, Oldham. Both of these parks have a heavy footfall and are used for sporting events as well as walking, running, and cycling. If only one life is saved, then they will be worth every penny. The longer a person goes without effective CPR and defibrillator, the less likely they are to survive. You can make a difference, please. Help to save lives. I call upon Councillor Brownish to respond.
Okay, so that was a genuine question from a member of the public wanting a couple of defibrillators installed in 2 of the main public parks in the town. And obviously for the council to fund it. It's becoming a political football, these defibrillators, because some of the parties are fundraising for it, using it as a cheap political football, really. Honestly, that's what it is. They should be installed via motions in the council, and for the council to have a strategic response to these rather than, oh, I want to get my picture in a newspaper. So this lady's question is spot on. No, Pauline, you're not the only one who finds Dr. Chauhan difficult to understand when he speaks. His first language isn't English, and I think it's very, very clear. He also moves the mic too far from his mouth, so often he's having to repeat what he's saying. But I've got to say, Pauline, based upon previous mayors I've seen in our journey together, Dr. Chauhan probably is the best of them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can confirm that there is a defibrillator, which is quite hard to say, in Alexandra Park, but it's in the main office, so it was presented by a local family, but it is only available at the moment when the office is open, which is between 7:30 and 5 o'clock. However, we will...
Okay, so the council admit that there is one in the park, but it's in the office and it's only available during office hours. She then goes on to make a series of commitments, but it's ridiculous that it takes a member of the public to raise this.
Ensure that any groups or events using the park outside those hours are aware of where it is and will have access to it in an emergency. We don't have a defibrillator at Tandle Hill Park, and we don't have a budget for providing one, but I have asked my council teams to explore for the options to see if it is possible to have one there in line with our community defibrillator policy. So we will have an update on that in due course. But we would stress that we do welcome contributions from the private sector or local business.
So she wants you and me, after paying record council taxes, and remember these councillors have awarded themselves a pay rise, approved themselves a pay rise. There isn't one in Tandle Hills. Apparently there isn't money for one in Tandle Hills, but she wants it, you, me, and the local businesses to fund one.
Or families, if they want to help supply and maintain these defibrillators. And I would like to ask Pat highly commend her, because she's been working really hard on this. I've been having correspondence with her for some considerable time, and she's really committed. So I can guarantee we'll do our best to do what we can to fulfil her wishes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So doing what we can to fulfil her wishes, so we're clear, is 1, the groups will be told, not members of the public, groups will be told who use Alexander Park how to access it during office hours. She's also then said there's no money because the council can't find the pittance. It's a pittance. It's a pittance. And indeed, in comparison, $1 million to Latix. How much did they spend on the photographer at the Civic Centre? For what was it, Pakistan Independence Day or something? No, it was the Prophet's birthday. My apologies. It was the Prophet's birthday. The council funded a private photographer, remember. They found the money for that, but they can't find the money for a piece of equipment that will potentially save at least one life. Yeah. These people are disgraceful.
Apologies, I know it's not on script, but can I also say thank you to Pat Hiley. She came to see me, tirelessly working for such an important cause. And may I also request, I know the councillors do have their ward budgets and things, if they would consider finding the right place to install those defibrillators, fund them.
So the mayor himself is recommended that the councillors use some of the ward allowances. The mayor is having to say it. That's not the wages, by the way. That's the discretionary budgets that they have to spend. Of course, the likes of Big Team Hurley and Mark Ince, and I pick on them because of the location of Tandle Hills, who are now each earning over £10,000 each, could easily give up a percentage of their monthly allowance and fund one. No.
And also, most importantly, registering them with Northwest Ambulance Service. I think as a council, we all also owe an apology to Pat Hiley, who in one of the last meetings was asked to use the stairs and was not given the opportunity to use the lift. I have apologized to her on the behalf of council, but would like to publicly offer apology again. The next question has been received from Megan Marshall. What are you doing to support our businesses across the borough to ensure our people and economy thrive? I call upon Councillor Fida Hussain to respond.
Okay, so the parish councillor Meg Birchall, the transgender councillor from Delft, or represents Delft, I don't think she's from Delft, has submitted a question masquerading as a member of the public. It's a set-up question by which two things can happen. A councillor can stand up and grandstand, and secondly, they can kill time. So Councillor Fida Hussain stands up and grandstands.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I thank Megan for her question?
He's thanking Megan for her question. Her question. Megan does not like the pronoun she, so will Megan be complaining?
It is a long-winded answer, and I'll ask you to bear with me, Mr. Mayor. There are a range of things that we are doing at the moment in support of businesses in the borough. This ranges from direct business support aimed at helping businesses to start up, grow, and invest in the borough through a series of physical regeneration projects that will provide the foundations for the businesses, people, and our economy to thrive.
He doesn't even know what he's saying, does he? He has no idea of the meanings of the words. I might as well be reading something in Spanish. That's as much understanding he has of what he's actually written. He's clearly not written it. This is a premeditated response by a council that's completely out of control, abusing due process. Look at him. I ain't got a clue, have you, Feeder?
Direct support includes general business advice, guidance, sector-specific support, workforce development, access finance, digital and low-carbon support. All of this support is underpinned by a variety of engagement events and comms activity to ensure that businesses know how to access the support that's on offer.
So complete gobbledygook. Complete and utter gobbledygook. I will be fair to Feeder, Councillor Feeder Hussain. At least your shirt looks like it's been ironed and you're dressed smartly, which is more than I can say for some of your colleagues, Feeder. But you and I and everyone else knows you have no idea what you're muttering because you've not written it. You don't even understand the meaning of it. And whatever the meaning of it is, it's just gobbledygook. It's coming across as gobbledygook.
Furthermore, the council also works in close partnership with the GMCA Growth Company to broker in a support available at regional level for businesses where applicable. In addition to this, there are...
Okay, so you bring in support from region. What is the specific support you've brought in from region, Feeder? Who has received it? What value has it provided? Nothing. See? Gobbledygook.
Series of physical projects aimed at supporting our businesses, people and economy to thrive. These include plans for a renewed purpose for Oldham Town Centre as a creative place with a vibrant nighttime and cultural economy.
Did he say violent or vibrant nighttime economy? I couldn't quite make it out the first time I heard it, and I still can't make it out. I'm sure he means vibrant, but it sounded like he said violent nighttime economy. Sorry, that's me.
Were applicable. In addition to this, there are a series of physical projects aimed at supporting our businesses, people and economy to thrive. These include plans for a renewed purpose for Oldham Town Centre as a creative place with a vibrant nighttime and cultural economy, more jobs and homes, including redevelopment of the Spindles to include a new market, retail place, office and events place, a new performance and theatre.
He's just reading something out, isn't he? It's embarrassing. In fact, it's humiliating, is what it is. This is your councillor with cabinet member. This is your cabinet member for business. This is embarrassing. Of course, the reason why Feeder is your cabinet member for business is because of the deals that were done between Councillor Feeder Hussain and AROOJ Shah. And this was his reward. And it was definitely violent, wasn't it? So your business councillor, portfolio holder, is talking about how the council is encouraging, facilitating a violent nighttime economy in Oldham.
Space in Oldham and for Oldhamers. Development of the green shoots business which Jabbar takes responsibility for, to business growth in the emerging green tech sector.
What is the
Furthermore, in
emerging
addition to the above,
green
we are
tech
also
sector?
trying to support our businesses, our people and the economy by increasing the amount of council spends within local companies and suppliers. Delivering a more ambitious, proactive approach to places and marketing.
Delivering a more ambitious and proactive approach to God knows what. Delivering a more ambitious. It's just buzzword, and they take this seriously. They think all of you are fooled by this.
This is to recruit residents through our range of Get Oldham Working initiative. Finally, developing a new employment and skills strategy, Oldham skills plan for the whole borough. And if I can add, supporting the development of Atom Valley, which will create over 20,000 jobs, Mr. Mayor, supporting local companies to innovate and get
20,000 jobs. You've heard that. He's claiming the council are involved in this Atom Valley that will create over 20,000 jobs. How many of those 20,000 jobs will go to our people, Feeder? You're talking absolute bollocks, lad.
opportunities as part of a package of supply chain opportunities. And if I can add, Mr. Mayor, if this could be emailed to the questioner so that she's got full details.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hussain. The next question has been received from Connor Green. What are we doing to ensure our children and young people?
Connor Green, of course, is the former Labour Party candidate, somewhere or another, repeated Labour Party candidate, another Labour Party stooge.
Are getting the best possible education and employment opportunities. I call upon Councillor Mohan Ali to respond.
So you can see what this is. This is about promoting and making sure that AROOJ Shah's cabinet members stand up and answer some questions, pre-prepared responses from their own friends to make them look good. Unfortunately, nothing can make Councillor Mohan Ali look good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank Mr. Green for his question. This year, we saw significant system-wide improvements in the early years education and skill land.
Significant system-wide improvement. This year, according to Councillor Mohan Ali, we saw significant system-wide improvement in education in this town.
In Oldham, and we are equally ambitious for next year. In recent times, we supported the opening of the Brian Clark Academy as part of our trust, which has the best secondary attainment outcomes in the borough.
Okay, so as part of a trust, so the Brian Clark Academy was, they're giving it to Blue Coat, the Church of England school that many of these people oppose and disagree with because it's basically a selective school. You can see Emma Barton in the background. Your 2-day-a-week trainee chief executive.
Early data, the progression of the children at the year 7 and year 8 is looking really promising. I am very hopeful that it will produce some of the...
He's hopeful a lot, isn't he? It's looking very promising and it's really hopeful, but he doesn't quantify any of it, does he? Yeah. And Ofsted, the Ofsted inspections around SEND kids, how school after school is mired in special measures, nothing on that. Is that Barbara Bramridge with her head in her hands?
Best results in Oldham, the approval of the Eton Star Sixth Form College will add 240 high quality places each year from 2026.
240 high quality places from 2026. How many of those 240 are for Oldham children, Mohan? Why don't you tell them the truth?
We have prioritised attendance as the foundation of positive outcomes, with lots of work going on in this area with the schools. The impact...
There's lots of work with the schools around attendance. It doesn't say what it is or what impact it's had. It is, Marlene. It's just bloody rubbish.
We've seen in the improvement in our absence rates across the system. We have improved outcomes for children and young people at all stages of the educational journey, Key Stage 4, Key Stage 2 and in early years, setting the stage for further improvements over the coming years.
It doesn't say what a single one of these improvements allegedly are.
Whilst our improving outcomes of free school meal children show that we are helping to improve social mobility, we are ambitious for all our most vulnerable children and young people. The second part of Mr. Green's question is about employment. As chair of the Employment and Skills Board...
There you go. As chair of the Employment and Skills Board. I'm important. My name is Mohan Ali. I'm also chair of this.
I have identified young people's employment as a priority area, and there are lots of plans in place. Just a few months ago, on behalf of the administration...
Lots of plans in place. Always plans in this town, isn't there? There's always lots of plans in, you know, plans.
I tasked the council to organise the young people's careers events, bringing young people and employers.
He's had a careers day. This council have held a careers day.
Under one roof, which was a successful event attended by 450 people. And we will not stop there. We will look at options to rerun the career event again in...
So 450 young people is the equivalent of, I don't know, 1 year 11 group. You're 1 year 11 in a school, in one secondary school. There's like 12 or 13 or 14 secondary schools in Oldham. It's the equivalent of one lot of students from one school turning up. Not just the careers day for who, careers day for what? Can you get a careers day in chicken shops, Mohan?
24, building on the success from the previous one, and we'll always be relentless in seeking to link our residents with jobs and opportunities. Thank you.
See, absolute nonsense from Mohan Ali. Set up question number 2.
Thank you very much. The next question has been received from Shadab Kumar. I can see all the work taking place in...
Shadab Kumar is a former Labour Party councillor and former mayor of Oldham Council and one of AROOJ Shah's closest allies.
The town centre, can I ask the cabinet member when we will see it starting to make a difference to people's lives? When will homes be ready and new cultural offer be used? I call upon Councillor Shah to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank Mr. Kumar for his question. So our communities, residents and businesses...
So you can see straight away, head down, reading a pre-prepared script produced for her. Head down, reading a pre-prepared script. I think that's the point I'm making, mate. I think that is the point I'm making. She's reduced public questions to 15 minutes and they've rigged it so that their own councillors, parish councillors and candidates submit the questions. And they're doing it with a straight face. I see Nikki and Denise and some of the rabble have turned up in the back there. It's Amanda as well. Nice to see you all back there.
Are at the heart of everything that we do. Our town centre regeneration scheme is not just about creating a better place. We're absolutely determined to create opportunities for our residents, our communities, and for future generations. Regenerating Oldham is of course about...
Okay, so the lad in the bottom right-hand corner at the back who's turned up, who brings out the Palestinian flag later, he's actually a Palestinian activist. I know him. He's also a former Labour Party member, very angry with the Labour Party, but not really, you know. He's on his own journey, I think. But I point him out here because I'm looking at him and he hasn't done anything that I can see so far that is in any way harassment or intimidation or any of those things. He's rocked up. He's clearly got the Palestinian flag under his coat or something like that. So let's see how this plays out. So I want you to look in the background as well as to, well, you can ignore her gobbledygook response.
Improving our town. It's about making it a great place to live, work and get on in life. But there's another hugely important aspect to what we're doing and why we're doing it. We're creating decent, well-paid jobs and apprenticeships for people when they need them the most.
She is claiming the council is creating decent, well-paid apprentices for people. If I could be bothered, and I'm out of energy if I'm honest, if I could be bothered, it'd be a freedom of information request asking how many apprenticeships has the council created for young people, or how many apprenticeships has the council created in the last 12 months, and what is the average salary. I'd do that.
Because of our regeneration activity, 72 Oldhamers now have new jobs created as a direct result of the projects being delivered, and that's just the beginning.
72, she says. 72. Nah. They won't be able to evidence that. 72. And that's just the beginning.
We're keeping money in the borough too, with over £24 million being spent with local suppliers and businesses, and that goes from everything from plants to pipes.
She's talking nonsense, of course.
Oldham, Mr. Mayor, is facing one of the biggest housing crises. This project, along with others we're working on, is starting to deal with this, ensuring local people have access to decent and quality homes. We are delighted to have...
I want you to hear that. I want you to hear what she just said. She makes reference to local people having access to homes. Priority and access to homes. It's what she says. Local people. In an answer later on to, I think, the Royton councillor, Barbara Brownridge, or was it Elaine Taylor, stands up and basically dodges the question about giving priority to people in Royton. They won't. They've rigged the system. And I think there's some gerrymandering going on of the electorate in certain areas that they don't control. No, Marlene, there's not much difference between 72 and 20,000, is there? These people, they just make it up as they go along, don't they? This is a council that, you know, there's a reason why they're trying to take an injunction out against me. Is because I'll just pause it and stop and focus on what they're actually saying. Read off a script with a head down, written by a council officer for her. That's not possible, Denise. She's not been long married, so that's not possible.
A long-term delivery partnership with award-winning developer Muse Places, who have a strong track record of delivery and share a joint ambition to build up to 2,000 much-needed new homes in the town centre over the course of the initial 15 years of the agreement.
So 2,000 homes in the town centre. 2,000, what sort of homes are AROOJ SHAH? And will they be social housing, or are you continuing the belief that Sean Fielding shared whilst he was leader and you were his deputy, that people will choose to live in the town centre in these 2,000 homes rather than choose to live in Saddleworth?
We had our first partnership board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it was really productive, and I'm glad to see that lots of hard work has already
She's so glad to see about this partnership meeting and so productive that she can't even speak about it herself with her head down, reading off a script. Blah, 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 blah.
First, work is already underway in drawing up proposals for the first 3 sites: the former sports centre, former magistrates court and civic centre, which will also involve extensive public consultation next year.
So the work is already underway. She's already said how many houses are being built. So what is the need for public consultation? What are you coming to consult with us for? Are you just having a laugh? Manipulating us again, AROOJ SHAH. What are we going to be consulted on? If there can be a shisha bar in each, you know, for one shisha bar for every 10 houses perhaps? A chicken shop? Maybe, you know, a street patrol service by Irishimi? What's the consultation for?
The outcome of the public consultation will then feed into the proposals ahead of formal planning applications being submitted. And in parallel with that process... So you're out of time, concession. Oh, okay. In parallel with the process...
No, if you're out of time, AROOJ SHAH, sit down, shut up. We've all heard enough of your bollocks.
Site preparation works will be taking place next year, so that building new homes can commence in 2025. Thank you. Sorry, Mr.
The next question has been received from Daniel Rashid. The impact of the
Daniel Rashid was a Labour Party candidate in Shaw alongside Saeed Maroof and Meg Birchall. That's who Daniel Rashid is. He's also Daniel is, I'm sure it's Show of Actors' son. So there you go. That's who Daniel Rashid is.
Oldham campaign is evident in the area I live in. It's much cleaner and the back alleys are so much better. What will be done to make sure it stays this way and does not go backwards? Also, some areas keep getting back again, and what will be done about this, please? Regarding putting cameras in alleyways, I call upon Councillor Goodwin to respond.
So, Daniel, after the Don't Trash Oldham campaign, has used your money to go into the inner areas of Oldham, where they can't be asked to keep their own back alleys clean. Wants to know what the council will do to continue to keep the alleys clean that they've already cleaned up using your money. And that includes money for cameras. How about you keep your own back alleys clean and the money go elsewhere where it's needed? Remember, Barbara Brownridge stood up and said there's no money for a defibrillator in Tandle Hill Park.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to Mr Rashid for his question and the feedback about the success of Don't Trash Oldham campaign. We recognise that the challenge around keeping the borough clean is continuous, and we're working closely with residents and ward members to ensure that our communities are proud of where they live and actively take part in helping to ensure the areas stay clean and tidy to ensure the success achieved through Don't Trash Oldham over the last 2 years is maintained. Moving forward, engagement with local communities remains a priority, and our resources focus on persistent and criminal fly tippers, taking legal action where appropriate. To help with this process, we are bidding for additional funding, which, if successful, will support the purchase of additional cameras, which we will place at suitable locations to deter fly tipping and to catch those responsible.
So they're bidding for money. They're bidding for money and they're giggling. They're giggling, mate. The reason why they're giggling is because they've rigged the public questions. That's why they're laughing amongst themselves and having a chuckle. Because the operation has been successful. The only time public questions has been influenced substantially is when I've run workshops to try and get questions in. I just don't have the energy anymore, mate. I don't have the energy anymore.
Thank you very much. The next question has been received from Ghazala Rana. Having worked in the care sector.
Ghazala Rana is a Labour Party candidate from last time. I think she stood in St Mary's, and this time she's the Labour Party candidate in Alexandra ward.
For most of my life, and knowing the challenges faced by the sector because of the lack of funding, can the cabinet member please tell me how Oldham Council are managing to provide the care needed under these circumstances? I call upon Councillor Brownridge to respond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Ms Rana is quite right about the pressures on social care brought about by, it's a demand-led service and there's increasing demand because people are living longer, but they're living longer with complex needs, which increases the cost of the care they need. This is exacerbated by the cost of living crisis, which has increased the cost of care, particularly in residential settings. And of course, the government has totally failed to actually come up with an answer to this. So every council in
So this is an excuse to have a dig at the government.
Actually, is really struggling with this as an issue. Now, having said that, in Oldham, we appreciate that adult social care is one of the biggest spending departments. So, but we have a duty under the Care Act to ensure that we provide the best quality service possible. And we do this by a number of ways. So we review the fees we pay to our care providers. We talk to them about their actual costs and do the best we can to meet those costs. We look at cost of living prices increase and the cost of the increased wages that have just gone up quite rightly. We verify the quality of the service provided. We meet regularly with our stakeholders to talk through how they're doing, including the Northern Care Alliance and Health Watch, to share information. But I think one of the main things we've done is we're actually looking to change how we deliver care. And I have to pay real tribute to our staff. We've actually changed completely the way they work, and they're delivering real benefits by doing that. So it's about focusing, resident first focus, keeping people safe, secure and well in their own homes.
So it's just a nonsense response, isn't it? It's just another nonsense response. Yeah, from a rigged question, planted question.
Will be the best way. But the bottom line is, without proper funding for this service cannot continue, and it will break. It's teetering across the country. It will break down completely unless the funding's addressed properly. But we are doing the best we can, and we're doing a good job in the circumstances. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Chris,
the allegation of fraud against this Labour Party-run council is not a new one, and it's not. And this is nothing in comparison to some of the other antics that AROOJ SHAH and her mates have been up to, of which there is Shahid Mushtaq, wedged between Barbara Brownridge, Shahid Mushtaq and Mohan Ali.
We are running out of time. I will take one more question as it's really very important.
See, they were running out of time. Running out of time, but they'll take one more question because it's really important. And this is from Carl Bardsley. After we exposed how after last council meeting, how we exposed how the numbers of the debt that Councillor Jabbar shared does not match the numbers of the debt that we shared from the council's own official paperwork. Here we go.
The next question has been received from Carl Bosley. In light of recent concerns about the accuracy of financial information provided to Oldham residents by Councillor Abdul Jabbar, Oldham Finance Lead, regarding the total debt and debt interest, I would like to request that Finance Lead addresses this matter in the next council meeting. Can the Finance Lead clarify the discrepancies and reassure residents about the accuracy of the future financial reporting? Furthermore, does the Finance Lead plan to resign in light of these concerns? I call upon Councillor Jabbar to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank Mr. Bosley for his question. It's hard for me to respond properly because I do not know what Mr. Bardley is exactly referring to. But anyway, you know, what was really, I was quite alarmed by the idea that I actually misspoke at the last council meeting. So
you were alarmed that you misspoke at the last council meeting. Your own council figures are different from the ones you shared.
Mr. Mayor, I actually asked my team to. I asked my finance team to actually look at what I said, and the information that I provided at the last meeting is correct. There's no inaccuracy at all. That's been, and then furthermore, Mr. Mayor, the information that I gave at the last meeting was actually presented on the 31st of October at the Audit Committee meeting, and we also got an agenda item 16, and if you look at page 159, the same information is there. And so I remain satisfied that I have fulfilled my duty as a finance lead as regarding reporting financial matters accurately. And as much as it would bring pleasure to Mr. Bardley and the Oldham Conservative Group, I'm not resigning. Thank you, Mr.
So Oldham Conservative Group, because Carl Bardsley is a Conservative candidate. So they make reference to Carl being a Conservative candidate, but they don't make any reference to any of theirs. All of it was rigged, apart from the first question, planted with their own questions. And they'll do this again at the next council meeting in January.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 9, reports of the leader and cabinet member. At a group leaders meeting, it was proposed that...
Okay, we're not going to listen to this, but I will fast forward it, okay? It's the questions I want, actually. There you go. It's the questions. So Howard Sykes is now the main opposition. Here's questions.
It's almost 18 months since the publication of the new Summon Ridgeway report into historical child safeguarding failures in Oldham. The harrowing accounts of victims detailed in its pages are the most shameful and disturbing thing probably I've ever read in my time on this council. The report's findings are deeply shocking and angered many people in Oldham. What still shocks and angers people 18 months later is the failure of those in positions of authority and trust to be held to account. Those whose responsibility was to safeguard and protect the vulnerable, those who could have stepped in to prevent harm, and those whose job it was to stop and prosecute the criminals. These are not just shortcomings or lessons to be learned. These are unforgivable failings, and unforgivable failings deserve consequences.
Okay, I'm just going to pause that and bring myself up. Just give me 1 second. This is the Leader of the Opposition confirming that the CSE review confirmed unforgivable failings, and these failings deserve consequences, and he wants the public officials who failed our children, so not just the gang rapists and the police, but the public officials involved in the cover-up. This is the Leader of the Opposition validating my position and validating everything I've said that leads to wanting these people to be held to account. It's his first question as the Leader of the Opposition. Again, I'm not a fan of Howard Sykes. You all know I'm not a fan of Howard Sykes. And this is what lobbying and campaigning does. He's been given a second opportunity to. And his first question as official leader of the opposition, is not to argue over a public inquiry or what we failed over, but he wants to know when and how we are going to bring to account those public officials that failed our children. Because I'm clear, as a prospective parliamentary candidate, I'm completely clear. We will want those people arrested, charged and sent to prison. Every one of them. And we've chased them off. Remember, we have chased off the entire leadership team of Oldham Council. The Chief Executive, the Deputy Chief Executive and the Assistant Deputy Chief Executive have all left in the lead up to the publication of this report as a direct consequence of our campaigning. So don't let anyone ever say we have come up short. We have not. Those who represent us and promise to support us are the ones that betrayed us, not us.
18 months on, I want to ask the Leader if she thinks there have been any consequences for those who have failed children in Oldham. 18 months on from the report, how many officers from Greater Manchester Police have faced disciplinary action and how many officers are still in post? 18 months on from the report, how many from social services, licensing and elsewhere in Oldham Council from that time have faced disciplinary action and how many are still in post? Councillors, members of the public and those directly impacted by this deserve a detailed answer to these questions. Anything else is not acceptable, Mr. Mayor.
So how many?
Councillor Shah.
How many, Shah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome the Leader of the main opposition, who's always used that heading in his signatory, has now been actually honoured that position, so I can understand he's really excited today. That's why he's used his first opportunity.
He's excited. Children have been gang raped, thousands, and she thinks it's a joke. She's treating the question as though it's a joke. He's excited. Oh, I am not a violent man. I honestly am not a violent man. But how dare she? How dare she respond to a question like that, mocking the Leader of the Opposition? He's excited. He's excited. And of course, she then goes on to say how he was leader at the time. We're not on about the time it took place. We're on about the subsequent cover-up. And at the time, the cover-up and things that... Look. Just look at her. Just look at her. Of course she's smiling as well. She thinks this is all a joke. She thinks refusing a public inquiry into the grooming and gang rape of working class white girls by predominantly Pakistani rape gangs. Look at her. How can you? She is like that because I would suspect, mate, it's all the plastic surgery or Botox or whatever it is, which is why she looks like that. Apparently one side of her face droops and she went to the police blaming it on me. The side of your face drooping, by the way, this cannot be blamed on me, but it can be attributed to too much Botox.
main opposition leader to talk about something that we all take very seriously and we understand the consequences of, and we've all had that shared concern that the right thing is done by
Look at
those
Nazrul
people
Islam
who
laughing.
suffered in a really tragic way. So we know that the Independent Assurance Review into Historic Safeguarding Practice made clear that historic social care practice in relation to the CSC cases that looked at was not acceptable, and that opportunities to tackle the issue and to support the victims were missed as a result. We all know that and we understand that. Since that time, practice and understanding around the issue of CSC, how to prevent it, how to tackle it and how to support survivors is something that we review significantly, robustly, and make sure that we get right. However, in the years since those terrible events, staff have undergone a huge amount of training to improve practice. So today's practice...
Huge amount of training. A Freedom of Information request will draw out what she meant by a huge amount of training. There's been no such thing as a huge amount of training because they denied it took place until 18 months ago. Apparently it was barefaced lies, remember? Until we forced from them, and even the report was a cover-up. And she's not answering the question, is she?
It's thankfully not comparable with that being delivered in the past. Most recently, we used the findings of the Assurance Review to provide additional training and instruction to staff from across children's social care. I won't have the specific details of the disciplinaries, or if there is any, Mr. Mayor, across GMP or anywhere else. But I will provide and see if that information is available and contact GMP. It's not a question for me that. In terms of like our own staff or anybody else, I'd be really surprised if any of those were here today. If they are still, I wouldn't have that information now. Actually, that...
She would be really surprised. She would be really surprised if any of the staff who failed the children historically were still here today. Gerard Jones, your Chief Executive for Children's Services, is still here today, AROOJ SHAH. He is all but named in the Newsom and Ridgway report for directly interfering with witnesses and attempting to prevent witnesses from giving testimony. Victims, survivors. £120,000, £130,000 a year, AROOJ SHAH. Why is he not sacked? Is he not sacked because he was doing exactly what the Labour Party controlled council told him to do? Is he the only one who interfered in the investigation? I think not. And a public inquiry, AROOJ SHAH, will make sure that every one of you in the council involved, from you if it's you, Jim McMahon, whoever, are held to account. And as an MP for this town, I will rip you to shreds, Shah. I will force you, humiliate you and your council, and I will demand government intervene and launch a public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of what? You won't even say how many children, so I'll say it for you what I think it is. Thousands, potentially tens of thousands of our children. Come on, AROOJ SHAH, why won't you tell us how many of our children were groomed and gang raped? Mate, I say this to you as a Muslim man. I agree with you. This is a woman who issued a public statement whilst leader because some Muslim children went out and did Friday prayers out in the rain because they couldn't use one of the classrooms one day. She issued a public statement on children voluntarily getting wet for 20 minutes and got angry about it.
Information and that time, and when we were dealing with all them cases in the review were way before my time, but they were at the time of like when the main leader of the opposition was here and was in fact...
So it was before her time, but it was at the time when the main leader of the opposition was there. Well, how about Jabbar sat next to you? He was mayor at the time, wasn't he, AROOJ SHAH? Can we check? I mean, the mayor at the time can't recall, remember? He can't recall, Gary, if he gave Daddy, the ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang, an Oldham Council employee that you all knew about, who was selling white girls from his seconded job in the Pakistani community centre. Can't recall if he gave him a reference. Just look at the state of that.
Leader of the council at that time, but I will provide him that information. Thank you.
Councillor Sykes, your second question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I welcome the Leader's assurance that we'll seek that information and share it as and when we've got it. My second one tonight is another important issue in this borough, and that's about Oldham Coliseum Theatre that has been failed time and time again. In 2013, proposals for a new building fell through. In 2019, the same happened again. And in 2022, a third set of plans reduced the options to a much smaller 260-seat theatre, down from the Bottom Street capacity of 550. One of which would not open until 2026. There have been now 10 wasted years and a window to do something to protect the Bottom Street venue and its 135-year history, which was slammed shut at the start of this year when the Arts Council pulled the rug out from under the Coliseum. A decade of missed opportunities from the government and from the Labour Council have brought us to this situation. Earlier, the then leader of the council, Amanda Chadderton, said that the Bottom building was at the end of its life. But a report commissioned in September by the Board of Trustees clearly concludes that this is not the case. According to inspectors, the Bottom site is not beyond repair and could be used again. Does the leader not think it would be best to invest in making Bottom Street fit for purpose rather than run the much greater risk of losing Coliseum performances for good? And given there is now professional evidence which makes it clear that Bottom Street is not beyond repair, it's clear that the administration either took bad advice on the state of the building or was economical with the facts when it came to the cost and feasibility of the repairs. Which is it, Mr Mayor?
Thank you.
Okay. Those are the two most powerful questions I've seen a leader of the opposition ask in a council meeting during my 5 years of doing this. And yes, the Lib Dems definitely have questions. Councillors have questions to answer. But remember, the Lib Dems are not in charge of the council. The council claimed, and this was Shahid Mushtaq, that the building was riddled with asbestos. Those were his words, and we all knew it was a land grab, didn't we? We all knew it was a land grab. And now the evidence is showing that it was indeed a land grab. Unfortunately, the campaigners for the Coliseum are playing their own game. And the new board, which no one to this day can tell me who appointed the new board. My understanding is the council, but no one will formally tell me that's the case. Won't come out and issue a statement saying we want to stay at the Bottom Street site. Why? Why do you think that is? Here's her response.
Mr. Shah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sykes, for your question. At the last meeting of the full council, and indeed in my first meeting of the full council as leader, I gave my absolute commitment that we would listen to the voices of local people on this issue. All the council has ever done is to provide the future venue for the Coliseum that they told us they needed and that they wanted. We've recently had meetings with the new Coliseum board to review our plans and the feedback we've received on them from the public and the arts sector, and those meetings have been incredibly positive.
Okay, she's on about meeting with the Coliseum board about the plans for the new venue, which was never a theatre, and she's saying they're increasing they're really positive, blah blah blah. On record, it's not a theatre and it's not fit for purpose, and it's not viable. The capacity is not viable. But she's not willing to talk about staying at the site, is she? She's not willing to have that conversation about staying at the site, even though she's come out and said she's claiming there's no plans to build on the Fairbottom Street site. No plans to build on it.
We reviewed practice, I think, as discussed, you've opened this conversation with the Coliseum, and we've listened to that too. And discussions are ongoing. The former chief executive of the Coliseum also said it was at the end of its life this year, so it wasn't just us. And the report actually, Mr. Mayor, when you look at it in detail, does talk about different things, and one to reopen and another to rebuild to support theatre into coming years. So we will continue to have them conversations. I don't think anybody was misled. I think it was unfortunate that we were in the position that we were, but actually we do understand the strength and the feeling towards the Coliseum, and that's why them conversations are ongoing. And I made a personal commitment to do and act upon what residents want and to do the best thing given the difficult financial circumstances that we are in. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So if you're in difficult financial circumstances, why are you spending 20 odd million on a venue when a couple of fire doors and a lick of paint will bring the existing venue up to scratch? Doesn't add up, does it? It doesn't add up, does it? And indeed, the flags are out now. So that's Shah at the bottom right hand corner. Monju with the strange hat on. You know something? I have no issue with the flags going out or people going and protesting at council meetings, particularly when we've been trying to encourage the Muslims to protest at council meetings. Now, this isn't an issue I'd want, maybe it's not the issue that you or I would have wanted them to protest on, but first base has got to be that they also see that this council is not meeting their needs. It's a sad fact of life that for the vast majority of people, they only care once an issue affects them. So the flags are coming out now. And I want us to keep an eye on to see what exactly goes on in the background, because I wasn't there. I wasn't there. And if you were there, please by all means type in and tell me what went on.
Councillor Sheldon, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sheldon's question, by the way. Councillor Sheldon's question is about a dog is not just for Christmas. And I love dogs. But really?
Given the shocking news stories regarding dog attacks recently and the addition of
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Sheldon, for your question. And yes, I will join you in doing that.
There you go. And straight away, she agrees with him.
Councillor Hopin.
So here it kicks off. Okay. So you told him you found it offensive in a public gallery. Okay. And the man in the hat, he's called Shah, by the way. Is it Shah? No. What side he was on and pushing into him. That sounds like assault to me, Denise. Is that what you're saying, what he did? I don't know. I wasn't there. I've told you I wasn't there. I watched it back the day after. So Peter Brown is offended by it, or objects to it. Offence is the wrong word. My apologies, Peter. Peter Brown, from what I just heard, objects to it because the flag that should be there is the peace flag, which is the flag that the council are committed to. And the council committed to the peace flag. The council committed to the peace flag instead of flying the Israeli flag as they were instructed to do, because they did not have an Israeli flag in response to the horrific terrorist attacks that triggered this latest round of atrocities. Now, I'll be clear with you. I think we got played. And we played into their hands. And as a consequence, allowed AROOJ SHAH and Cameron Gaffer to spin the situation where these Asian councillors do what they've always done. And they make people who aren't racists, and Peter Brown definitely isn't a racist, and Tony Martin sure as hell isn't a racist, and spin it and try and make decent people being portrayed into racists, and they spin it, and this is what they do. This is what they do. So Peter has a point about the peace flag. But the banning of flags, of a protest banner, that I find, whilst I find something offensive, I could find something offensive. If we go down that road of saying this shouldn't be here because I find it offensive, it's a trap. It's a trap. So let's carry on hearing what... I agree with you. Freedom of expression until it crosses a line. So if someone was waving the flag in my face and then pushing me, or trying to provoke me, as I think Denise is. But Denise... And you know, I've missed Peter's call. I've not been able to speak to him yet. You was intimidated by what? The flag? The man? What? You know, let's get to specifics. What was the intimidation? Did he threaten him? Yes, exactly that. We displayed our cover-up banners. Yeah. And that is a decision for the council. OMBC had previously said they will only display peace flags. That doesn't mean a member of the public can't display another flag. You need to understand where this will go and how they'll twist this against us, and are twisting it against us. So he was intimidating by the man sitting next to him, crowding him. So at this moment in time, he's not sat next to him, is he? Let me carry on playing it. At this moment in time, he's not sat next to him. He was sat in the corner, and Peter was sat at the other side. When I started this, he was sat on the bottom right-hand corner, wasn't he? And Peter was sat at the other side. Let me bring it back up and let's play this on. Sorry, I wasn't there, so I can't, you know, I'm only going off the...
Freedom of expression, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure there's no issue with having a flag.
I've been advised.
Okay, that's Councillor Cameron Gaffer, who had the Palestinian flag wrapped around his wrist, I think, at the last council meeting, currently suspended from the Conservatives, saying freedom of expression. Okay, that's an interesting point, Tony. No, they weren't political.
Please, can I continue with the meeting? I've been advised that it's not illegal to have the flag. Hence, I cannot stop from someone.
So it's not illegal to have the flag, okay? So the flag itself is not the issue, okay? And I've I know Peter Brown well enough to know that despite his age, someone waving a flag, the flag would not be something he would be intimidated by. I don't think Peter Brown gets intimidated very easily. You see, I don't buy things like this, Jack. You could see the attitude in his body language. Unless you're at the meeting, because I've seen nothing so far beyond a guy wearing a hood sat at the bottom left who brought out a flag. That's all I've seen so far in this interaction, you know, in the video. Let's carry on.
When the first protest were down in Westminster, London police said, and this were on national radio, that they would take a dim view of any Palestinian flags as anti-Semitism.
Mr. Mayor,
I appreciate it. I'm really sorry.
Okay, so Peter Brown now seemed, and I couldn't hear it properly, and AROOJ Shah jumped on it. You could hear AROOJ Shah jumping on it, that the Palestinian flag seemed to automatically suggest anti-Semitism. That's a leap. That's a leap. And there's a contradiction there, isn't it, Lynn? You're saying the flag wasn't the issue, but Peter Brown seems to be suggesting that the flag is an issue. And the flag is a representation of anti-Semitism. But they are not the council, are they, Denise? You can't link members of the public with the council. It's the council who decided to only display peace flags outside. And that's the point, isn't it? If you walked in with an Israeli flag, a British flag, an Ukrainian flag, would security have taken it off you? But we've allowed, first of all, Cameron Gaffer to make political gain from it, freedom of expression. And we've now allowed AROOJ Shah, who has been criticised extensively and who these men came to object to, they didn't come to object to other members of the public gallery. They came to object to the lack of representation, as they saw it, from their own Muslim councillors. And from the outset, from the beginning, I've been clear to all of us, haven't I? Stay out of it. Let them argue with each other. Is the flag, by its very existence, anti-Semitic? I mean, I'm asking you. If we ban one flag, what will be the next flag that they'll want banning? I'll tell you now. It'll be the Union flag. It won't be the Israeli flag. It'll be the Union flag. As though somehow it automatically means racism or suggests racism. We played into their hands. These lads turned up, and I've spoken to both of them since. I've not met them, I've spoken to them. They turned up wanting to protest against their own Labour Party councillors. Why did we object? Had those lads hijacked it, Tony? I'm asking, I don't know. Had those lads hijacked it as an anti-Israeli propaganda? I don't get on with one of them, by the way. I genuinely don't get on with one of them. I speak to him, I know him. It's a fair question, Denise. If we go to the next meeting with posters of me, because the mayor said you can wave a flag. We've got to get to that bit, haven't we, Denise? We've got to get to... sorry, Lynn. We've got to get to that bit. But from my point of view, it's not just on this matter, it's on any matter. A member of the public cannot be held responsible for what a council decides to do or not do. The council decided it was only going to fly the peace flag. That's not for a member of the public to respect. The council can only say, we only want to talk about child sex exploitation in this area, on online grooming. Doesn't mean we can't raise child sex exploitation outside shisha bars. I think they'll probably throw us out. And that's the point Gary's making and a few of you are making. If we'd done it, how would the council have reacted to us? And I think they would have treated us very differently, is my opinion. And they have treated us very differently. They've given us Asbies, haven't they? Why samosa flags, Sheila? I'd prefer a real samosa to nibble on. The new Peter would be vocal, it was like a setup. We're responsible for our own actions, Denise. We are responsible for our own actions. And I've not managed to speak to Peter yet. And I'll get to it. I will get to it.
Mr. Mayor, the Palestinian flag is not anti-Semitic.
I
There
don't
you
think...
go. Mr. Mayor, the Palestinian flag is not anti-Semitic. She got that in, didn't she? She scored a point. She scored a point.
Sorry, I'm not...
Anti-Semitic.
Come on, guys. Please, we need to continue with the meeting. Sorry. If it was illegal, I would have removed. Please, thank you. Councillor Hobbin, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While it's not illegal, I do think it's inappropriate in this chamber to have one flag up.
Okay. He thinks it's... Councillor Hobbin thinks it's inappropriate to have one flag up. I agree, Councillor Hobbin. How about you rock up to the next meeting, Councillor Hobbin, with an Israeli flag draped around you? If you feel that way, Councillor Hobbin, or any of the other councillors, please rock up with the other flag. Now, Councillor Hobbin signed the letter calling for a ceasefire. So I know he's not a racist, and I know he is on the side of innocence, the same as we all are. But we've just been played, and Councillor Hobbin has just been played. And Peter Brown can be heard in the background saying, "Thank you, Councillor." So Peter Brown's my friend. But Peter Brown is objecting to the flag. As though the flag, would someone going in with it is taking sides. I think they are taking sides. There's nothing to stop someone else from the other side taking the side. And in that context, I would have preempted this. As the council, I would have preempted this. So when I said, if I was in charge of the council and it's the blue flag only, I would have then said, going back to what Tony Martin's suggesting, that there will be no flags in the council chamber. But they beat us to it and they played us. And we allowed that to happen. We allowed that to happen. They didn't set Peter up, Lynn. They went to know if Peter was going to be there, what he was going to do. I think Peter reacted by him speaking the way he did, and then perhaps they played him, which is what then happens later. But here we go.
I think that's, Councillor Hobbin, with all respect to you, that's your subjective personal feeling. I appreciate that.
Okay, do I not think they brought the flag because Labour... Yeah, that's why they brought the flag. I spoke to them. They brought the flag, Susan, to protest against their own Muslim councillors. And it was a piss for attendance, by the way, because they wanted the public gallery packed. And I think 3 or 4 of them rocked up. So it was a bad protest, completely ineffective. And then we allowed this to be portrayed as though we are some form of racists. They played us. I don't know, Gary. I wouldn't put it past them, would you? I wouldn't put it past them. So, Brian Hobbin is angry because they're waving only one flag.
Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will ask my question, but I do think it's disgraceful.
Would you like to withdraw your words because this is not illegal to have a flag? Please?
But I don't think it's right.
I'm asking you, would you like to withdraw your words,
I will retract it, but I don't think it's right.
Okay.
So he said it's disgraceful and he's back down. He said it's disgraceful and he's back down. So let's carry on. And Peter's getting more and more angry in the background. I can't quite make out everything he's saying.
It's not disgraceful, sir. It's not illegal.
Yeah. So why did Peter get agitated? I'm not sure. So far, there's been no interaction. This guy hasn't gone and sat next to him or anything yet, has he? Cameron Gafford's got a slapping. AROOJ Shah's got a slapping. These people were under pressure, by the way. The mayor's looking good, saying a flag's not illegal. People can wear flags if they want. And Brian Hoban's just been slapped.
Apologies. No one is threatening you. If I feel that anyone is threatening you,
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so he feels threatened. So Peter Brown now feels threatened. Sorry, Denise, you again. I'm not picking on any of you. Nikki was there, Denise was there. When Peter's saying he felt threatened, what did he feel threatened by? Had the person gone and sat next to him at this point? I don't know. As you can see, the camera's just focused on, yeah?
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
please take a seat. You've not been asked to stand up yet.
Mr. Mayor, I've asked for a point of order.
There's no point of order on this. Councillor Craig, we both know there's no point of order on this. What should be removed? What is a good goodness?
If this is causing disruption to the meeting, then that should be removed.
The person who's causing disruption to the meeting should be removed, Councillor Quigg. It's not, please.
So they're arguing over who's causing disruption to the meeting. So that's what happened. So when Peter Brown is saying he felt threatened, because, you know, there's, all I've got is a camera, is a live stream that I'm looking at, yeah? When Peter Brown can be heard saying he feels threatened, the guy with the flag then went and what? Sat next to him. Did Peter invite him to sit next to him, or did he just go and sit next to him of his own volition? I don't know.
Councillor Hobben, would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. According to an article in the Arts People published in August, Oldham Council are awarding Oldham Coliseum Theatre Limited over £860,000 over the next 2 years. Approximately £588,000 in year one, made up of £450,000 from Arts Council money and the rest from the council budget. This is the same amount that was awarded previously from the council budget. Can the leader advise what this money is to be used for, and if there's a programme of events, and also has any of the money been transferred yet? I understand it's a deep question, so it might need a written answer.
Councillor Shah?
So I struggled to hear the question, but it was around funding from the...
Okay, so the question's a waste of time, by the way, but that's by the by. So whilst this interaction has gone on, in the background, he feels threatened and stuff. I look at where Shah, and that's his name, the guy sat near the water bottle, he's still sat. Munja is still sat where he's sat. Peter Brown said he felt threatened. Are we saying during the time they've now gone back and sat where they were? Yeah, I can see there were 2 flags, Amanda. I've got them right in front of me here. Yeah. Peter Brown's already said he feels threatened. And from following of the interaction on here, it seems to be that someone's approached Peter at the time he said he felt threatened. This is 10 seconds later, 20 seconds later, and these 2 lads seem to be sat exactly where they were still sat, although now they've both got flags round them. Have they got up and moved to Peter at the time he said he felt threatened? They don't look like they've moved though, Lynn, do they? At the time Peter said he felt threatened, and this is the live feed continuing on 10 seconds later, these 2 lads don't look like they got out of their seat, because Peter's past Councillor Meg Birchall, isn't he? Further along. I will see what in a minute, Gary. Let's carry on playing it. So he's not got up yet. So at the time Peter Brown said he felt threatened, which has already happened in this video, neither of these lads had approached him. It's important.
Council, is that right? And how was it spent? Is it okay if you repeat the question? I didn't hear it.
Yeah, due to disruption, I have extended the question time for 5 minutes to make sure that all the group leaders have opportunity to ask questions.
In light of the disruption and in light of the length of the question, I will submit it in paper, in writing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Councillor Hoping. Thank you.
Councillor Haynes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everyone knows, the lack of affordable housing across the borough is a major issue. Superficially, at least, house builders are required to provide a certain number of affordable homes in relation to the overall size of the development. However, it is a little-known fact that in certain circumstances, house builders do not have to provide affordable homes, providing they pay the council the equivalent amount for the council to spend on affordable homes elsewhere, as was the case in a recent approved planning application in Failsworth. So
this recent planning approval in Failsworth was where he voted on this and agreed with it. So he seems to be suggesting he's against something that he voted on and approved because he sits on the planning committee.
Ask the leader how much is currently in the kitty and what mechanisms are in place to ensure the monies and thus affordable homes will be distributed fairly across the borough.
Is this not a question he should have asked at the planning committee before agreeing to the millionaire development in Failsworth in Woodhouses to just pay the council some money rather than have one of those houses affordable or 2 as affordable? He's not very good at this, is he?
Thank you, Councillor Haynes, for your question. The detail and the technicalities I will provide in a...
Sorry, Sheila. They've not moved yet, have they? This is 2 minutes on from Peter saying he's felt threatened. They've not moved yet. Have they moved yet? I'm sorry, Gary, but Peter's already upset. Pete's already said he feels threatened.
Response, and I hope that's agreeable with Councillor Haynes. In regards to affordable homes, I agree entirely that should be a fair and proportionate amount, but we have a local plan and housing strategy that outlines where we want those affordable homes, and I would encourage...
So they've got a local plan and a housing strategy where they want the affordable homes, blah, blah, blah. Again, a freedom of information request would completely destroy them, expose them before the next local elections.
Councillor Haynes and other people to contribute to that consultation as it's up. Thank you.
Councillor Ghaffur, would you like to ask your question?
I don't have a question. I'll take it.
Okay, so that's the other important bit. Councillor Ghaffur doesn't have a question. He is, of course, the leader of the OGs. The OG as in original gangsters. That is why the Oldham group, the initials OGs. He's the leader of the OGs. And he doesn't have a question. So he's not moved yet. So what is... I'll ask him. I'll call him tomorrow. I'll ask him. He has tried to call me. To give me due, Peter Brown has tried to call me.
Councillor Shah this time.
Thank you. Councillor Shah, would you like to present your report?
Thank you. So, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I won't go through every inch of the report because I'm going to assume that members have read it fully, ready to scrutinise it. But I do want to start off with a couple of things that aren't in the report itself.
So I've just seen the lad at the back look towards the left, smile and wave his hands. And there's someone dressed up as Grinch there, yeah?
That's only due to the need to publish this a week in advance to give members the time to fully...
And Nick is getting some water, yeah?
Digest it. So we couldn't include that we've successfully just recently received £237,000 from the High Street Accelerator Fund to boost Oldham's nighttime economy with a particular focus on Yorkshire Street and Union Street. The timescales involved in this funding works really well with our town centre regen plans, specifically the Tommyfield Market move and the opening of the new event space at Spindles. This money is specifically to accelerate, as the name suggests, our plans to create a vibrant nighttime economy with the end goal of reaching purple flag status, which is an accreditation for town centre standards of excellence in managing the evening and the...
Oh, Peter Brown was the Grinch. Okay, I see. Sorry. I understand. Okay. Bear with me. I'm not listening to her at all. It's gobbledygook nonsense. I'm not really interested. I'm watching what's going on behind, okay?
Nighttime economy. The project will be overseen with a dedicated group of members of the Oldham Town Centre Board, which will shape and direct this with the support of the council as we look to recruit a dedicated evening and nighttime economy manager. Once again...
So the only person that's moved is Councillor Meg Birchall. From that row in the back now, up to now.
The fact that we've been awarded this funding, one of only 10 places in the country, shows me that central government believe in our plans to create an Oldham Town Centre where businesses and communities thrive. I'm also really grateful for the support of the Greater Manchester Nighttime Economy Advisory.
That's Nikki with the camera. She's filming. Yeah. She seems to be filming. Who is she filming? Is she filming the Palestinian flag lads? I don't know. That's Nikki filming, yeah. While she's drinking some water or getting some water.
And co-creator of the Warehouse Project and Park Life Festival, Sasha Lord, for his backing.
Oh yeah, this is the Sasha Lord who's promoting 24 mocktails. Yeah, that's Sasha Lord.
This scheme. He actually came to visit Oldham this week and we discussed plans and how we could move that on. Moving on to the details of the report, I won't steal all Councillor Jabbar's thunder because I know he's planning to talk about the autumn statement when he gives his report later on. But I did want to touch on how welcome it was that Atom Valley has been allocated.
That's Graham Sheldon, who's got some water. Yeah.
Investment zone status with a particular focus on advanced manufacturing and materials, which...
I'm looking at the 4 ladies sat at the back next to the Palestinian flag guys. They've not got any flags with them. So I would think that they're not with this group. They turned up for their own reasons, I think. And I'm looking at their behaviour, and I'm not feeling anything from them. Is anyone else? I'm looking at them. Is there animosity there? Is there? I'm not sensing that looking at them. That didn't look like a challenging interaction there. I think that seemed fair enough. Nikki said one thing to one of the girls, and she seemed to accept it. Is that right?
Hopefully really benefit the scheme. I know myself, the leader of Rochdale, Councillor Neil Emmett, and the leader of Bury, Councillor Eamon O'Brien, and the Mayor of Greater Manchester are really excited about the potential Atom Valley has, because we know that if we get this right, Mr Mayor, it has the potential to create 20,000 high-skilled and high-paying jobs across the 3 sites in the north-east of Greater Manchester. And there's no reason why the Frantis or the Platt brothers of the future can't sprout up and succeed from Atom Valley. We had our first strategic partnership board meeting with Muse Places in late November. Although we're still in the early days of this 15-year partnership, I am really impressed at how much this matters to Muse already.
Okay, Muhammad Ali has just moved, the builder, but he's moved closer to one of the Palestinian flag guys. He's not moved anywhere else.
And how much work has already begun.
Me personally, I think he's moved so he can be more on video. I think is the reason why he's moved.
The report says Oldhamers will begin to see movement in the next few months as works begin on the 3 main sites, which is the Civic Centre site, the former Magistrates' Court, and the old Leisure Centre site. Muse have already taken time to get to know Oldham, and I'm not sure whether most people are aware, but they've recently set up a partnership with Oldham College to ensure the jobs and opportunities created as part of our town centre regeneration projects.
The girls are nattering away. The girls clearly are not with the Palestinian flag guys, are they? They didn't come together, and I don't think there's anything coordinated there. Yeah, he wants fame, doesn't he, Gary? He's just moved along to be, in the shot of the camera. Yeah.
Will go to young people from Oldham. It will specifically open up opportunities for college students that are studying T-levels in design, planning and surveying, and I look forward to meeting the young people who will benefit from those opportunities. A real key element to this is obviously moving out of this civic centre that we're in today, and I'm pleased to confirm that we're on track with this, and staff will begin to move into Spindle offices in February and March, allowing us to get cracking and properly transform the fabric of our town centre by building...
So they reckon they'll be in Spindles by February. Yeah. So we'll hold them to that.
2,000 new homes and a brand new park. But it's not all about the town centre, Mr Mayor. Work has started on the first of our 2 district plans to be able to focus on projects that matter to residents in the neighbourhoods that they live.
So, oh sorry, I've just done something stupid. Just give me a second.
Across GM, as well as offering assistance to taxi owners to replace any non-compliant vehicles that are licensed in Greater Manchester. We can evidence that this investment will reduce the pollution levels to below the legal limit across Greater Manchester without the need for the charging zone, and it is this approach that we hope the government approves and funds.
So she's talking nonsense about the charging zones and stuff. I'm not really interested in what she's talking about, if I'm honest with you. So, because I'm interested in what went on, because, Peter's a friend of mine. I care about him, and I wasn't at the meeting, and I heard stuff afterwards, and I looked at the video, and I couldn't make out from the video, so I thought I'd wait till Sunday night and ask some of you who were there. So as of now, the only person that's moved is Muhammad Ali, and the reason why he's moved is so he can be more in camera.
With regards to your question regarding the cameras, there will be another period of public consultation where the future of the cameras will be considered in detail once Greater Manchester has had full formal government feedback on its clean air plan following the submission of this additional evidence. In terms of the funding, all the funding provided for the signage and the cameras as part of the previous proposal came from central government, and therefore any decisions regarding signage...
Okay, that's a good picture. So here, Nick is filming whatever she's filming. Palestinian, one guy is more interested in his phone than anything else. The other guy with the closest he's to is Amanda and her daughter, and Denise, Tony, and the team there. So where's Peter from there? Is he past you, Tony, or is he on the other side?
Future use of the cameras will be made in consultation with government after their feedback on the Greater Manchester investment-led clean air plan. It had nothing to do with the mayor or the leaders of the 10 authorities. It was government. Thank you.
Thank you,
So she's absolving her hands on the dodgy CAS scheme, I think. It was to do with government, apparently.
I hope your question is question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that there have already been several references this evening to this particular point, but I wonder if the leader could provide an update on the steps being taken with colleagues from Rochdale Council and the GMCA to ensure that Stakehill becomes a vital part of the Assam Valley investment zone. Thank you.
So Peter's settled down, hasn't he? No one's moved towards him, and at this point in time, Peter's settled down. You'll see what I'm getting to. I think for the benefit of Peter, you'll see what I'm getting to. So Peter settled down. The meeting's continuing. For whatever reason, he was alarmed by the presence of the two lads with the flags. And some of the councillors agreed with him that the flag should not be there, but the mayor made it clear that the flags are allowed there. Peter suggested it was anti-Semitic. Reset something on my end here. Oh wow, I've not been paying attention. There's 237 of you. Okay, there's 237 of you. If you're finding value in what I'm trying to make sense of, I think it's a value for everyone. If you're finding value, please consider buying me a coffee. There's a buy me a coffee link at the top. Thank you, Tony, for the super chat. Thank you very, very much. I know I'm meeting many of you on Tuesday night for a meal, so that's where the super chat income goes. So thank you very, very much. Let's carry on and see where we end up with.
Councillor Shah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Councillor McLaren for his question. For those who may not be aware, Assam Valley is a hugely significant economic growth package of 3 sites in the northern eastern area of Greater Manchester. So that includes the Northern Gateway site between Bury and Rochdale, Kingsway site in Rochdale, and importantly for Oldham, an extension of the Stakehill site which crosses the boundary of both Oldham and Rochdale. But I'm really pleased that over the last 12 months, Oldham Council has been working closely with Rochdale Council and other partners like Transport for Greater Manchester and the Greater Manchester Combined Authority to bring forward the various packages of work needed to develop the Stakehill site. So this includes the in-depth analysis.
So this is, as well as having public questions that are set up, you've now got questions from Labour Party councillors that are set up. You can see, yeah?
Transport connectivity to make sure that all residents will have the ability to access the jobs that are available at these sites, and for local businesses to connect for supply chains and contract awards. This work will also help to identify the infrastructure needed to make sure that the site can be developed in an appropriate and timely manner. And I was pleased to see the recognition of the strategic importance of Atom Valley by the government through the recent allocation of the investment zone status with a focus of advanced manufacturing materials. I strongly believe that all 3 sites across Atom Valley and the whole of Greater Manchester will benefit from the allocation of the investment zone, and I'm pushing to go as fast as possible so we can reap the benefits as soon as possible. But we're working closely with the Mayor, Rochdale, Bury, to take levelling up into our own hands. And Atom Valley is about creating the landscape for the next industrial revolution. It's about creating the opportunity for the Ferrantes and the Platt brothers of the future to sprout up and to succeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So it's just nonsense. Ferrantes and the Platt brothers of the future, Atom Valley. This is, I think, is where the 20,000 jobs was. Of course, most of Atom Valley isn't in Oldham, but you know. What's that got to do with any of this? Thank you, Chris, for the super chat. Thank you very, very much. I'm grateful. So, is that the precursor your wife has asked? Does it make it okay if your wife has asked, rather than you asking, Gary? I don't know, mate. No idea. Maybe no. Maybe life's good as a council leader of Oldham Council. But the Palestinian flag lads still sat where they are. Not moved.
Thank you, Councillor Shah. Last question, Councillor Quigg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last council meeting, Councillor Shah I raised with the issue of the write-down in value of the Fitnell housing site. Councillor Taylor did give me the Cabinet report on that. However, more questions were raised than were answered, especially given that the value of the site for the council was reduced by just shy of £2 million sterling. And there was a 39% decrease in the value of the land subsequent to the actual valuation in 2020 in March 2023. Given the value of the land at the Hertford Mill site increased overnight by at least £2 million sterling, given that land prices have gone up, housing prices have gone up, why is it council assets seem to be sold off cheaply in certain areas, or given away, or given to people who might be beneficial to the council, instead of actually getting the market value for the price of the land to actually benefit the residents of this borough? And why on earth are we not auditing this properly? Because it's about time assets that were sold came back to the public and were invested into services. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Shah.
Okay, brilliant question, yeah. Absolutely brilliant question by Lewis Quigg. What Lewis is basically saying is, in this council, it's selling land at knockdown prices here and there, and there's no consistency in the value of land. In some areas the value's gone up, in other areas the value's gone down, when the value's been going up all the time across the board. He's not angry in the way he's said that question. It's a completely legitimate question. And it's a follow-up question because what Elaine Taylor gave him in response to this land in Fitnell didn't answer the questions. Completely reasonable question, articulated in a very polite, assertive, but polite manner. I don't think anyone's going to say the way in which Lewis Quigg asked the question he just asked is any different to how anyone else asked their questions. This was the response.
So, firstly, I thank Councillor Quigg for his common and usual theme of driving, mischief, and also using the opportunity always to cause division, to try to make out that people who are elected aren't doing what they should be doing, and everything's wrong, and everything's miserable, and everything's ill intent. But unfortunately,
he's not done any of those things, has he? He's just asked a question. He's just asked a legitimate question. He asked a question. He's just asked a legitimate question, AROOJ Shah. And the way you're reacting and responding is now raising alarm bells for me as to actually what are you trying to hide by responding the way you are, AROOJ SHAH. Because all he's done is asked a legitimate question.
I'd like to miss that theory as well, because actually people work in good...
Why don't you just answer? Would you please allow her to answer the question?
Mr. Mayor, can I
please?
just say, the same people that were really declaring their absolute, threat for their own security and felt intimidated by a cloth and a flag are now using that same method to make me feel intimidated. So I now feel...
So she's the victim. So she's the victim. So she's twisted it now. So she's the victim. She's attacked Lewis Quigg, and now she's the victim to the heckling from, I presume it was Peter Brown. I'm not sure it was Peter, I couldn't tell. Whose point was, why don't you just ask the question, answer the question? So she feels threatened by a man in the public gallery, probably twice her age, just shouting, why don't you just answer the question? What are you going to do, AROOJ? AROOJ! You're going to go and get Imi, AROOJ? Get Imi to follow him, yeah, AROOJ? Look at her. Just look at her. Was it the chap next to Pete? Okay. Mark, is it Mark? Kenyon? I'm not sure what's his name. Sorry, I forget. But the ex-soldier guy is decent. Decent. Just answer the question, AROOJ SHAH. She feels threatened. She feels threatened. He wants to know where the millions of pounds have gone, AROOJ SHAH. Why £2 million of public money has been lost? Our money, AROOJ SHAH. He wants to know where that £2 million has gone. Sorry, Steve. Yeah, Steve. He's a very decent man. I agree, Tony. Very decent man. Where's the £2 million gone, AROOJ? That's the question. Why are we selling buildings off at knocked down prices, AROOJ? That's the question. Public assets. Our assets, AROOJ. Why did we sell the Carnegie Library at mates rates, AROOJ? Why did we sell Glodick Baths at below market value, AROOJ? Why did we sell 4 acres of land to a company with only one director for like £100,000 that they never even paid? Why did that happen, AROOJ? With a picture of Jim McMahon next to the developer in the newspaper, AROOJ? Come on, AROOJ. Why is Sasha Lord promoting Mocktails 24, AROOJ? Why are you refusing to answer the question? AROOJ? Yeah, Lansop in Diggle and Upper Mill, all of that. AROOJ? The people of this town aren't stupid, AROOJ. We see you for what you are, AROOJ. No gangster mates of yours are going to threaten or scare off any of us, AROOJ.
I'm under some significant kind of pressure and threat by them, so am I able to continue in my role?
Please accept my apology and continue. Would you please allow member to speak?
So,
would you allow member to speak?
So,
please allow her to speak.
I never ever reference myself as a victim. Very proud of who I am and what I do.
That's a complete and utter lie. I have the paperwork from your mock tears at Greater Manchester Police. You are a liar, AROOJ SHAH, and in fact I'll do it here. AROOJ SHAH, leader of Oldham Council, is a liar with that statement, and I can evidence that. She does portray herself as a victim, as a false victim. Who blew up your car, AROOJ SHAH? Claiming it was a racist attack. Who blew up your car, AROOJ SHAH? You crying as a victim, AROOJ SHAH, goes all the way back to when they kicked you out of Glodick. It's because I'm a woman. They've kicked me out. The Pakistani men don't like me. I'm going on Newsnight. I'm going on Newsnight. It's because I'm a woman. Nah. It's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm Muslim. It's because I'm childhood friends with a convicted heroin dealer. He's rehabilitated, don't you know? He's rehabilitated. He's not been convicted in the last few months. It was that Raja Mia who made my face droopy. That Raja Mia made my face droopy. It wasn't the Botox. It wasn't the Botox. It was Raja Mia. Sorry, I was having fun.
In terms of the Hertford Mill site, it's unsurprising it rocketed in value, and it is also common sense that it was going to do that once the mill was removed. That's just common sense. But
if it's common sense, let's have a look at the reports, AROOJ SHAH. Let's have a look at the reports of the value before and the value after. Let's have a look at the two reports, the two surveys. Publish them. Someone asked for an FOI. See? Sorry, I can't be asked anymore with a lot of this, I'll be honest with you. But there's so much to go on all the way up to the May election, where we could completely destroy him just off what her and the other councillors have been saying, her and the other cabinet members have been saying in this meeting. We could produce enough FOIs. You saw what we did. You all saw what we did when we got Maggie Hurley over the line, and how we ramped it up with FOIs and questions and all of that as a consequence of how they've exposed themselves. No, counter punching. We've counter. Yeah, these were counters. And we could do the same all the way up to May. I'm just not feeling it. Who are we going to replace them with?
we do have independent auditors who aren't affiliated, associated, related, or know anybody in the authority.
You have independent auditors who aren't related, know anyone. Well, actually, but you are related, aren't you? I mean, not you per se, AROOJ. But you've got a Councillor Shahid Mushtaq was related to... Councillor Shahid Mushtaq was related to his brother that the council sold a wad of land to near Alexander Park, one of my early exposés. Glodic Baths, AROOJ, was sold during Purda to friends of yours because you had a declared interest in that and left the meeting, apparently. Remember, AROOJ? In your re-election. Frank Rothwell is a mate of yours, isn't he, AROOJ? Who got £1 million from your council just days before an election.
So they do the auditing. So any implication of wrongdoing is unappreciated. And if he thinks he has
any appreciating of wrongdoing, one of my commitments, once elected MP for Oldham, West, Chadderton and Royton, is to force the National Crime Agency to come in to Oldham and lobby the government directly to come in and take over the running of this council. And if I was a betting man, I would bet every penny I have that they would find evidence of wrongdoing, extensive evidence of wrongdoing in this town. But Councillor Lewis Quigg, in his question, has not even suggested any wrongdoing. He just wants to know where the £2 million gone, which he has yet to answer. The £2 million at the Fitton Hill site, remember.
evidence of corruption, he should present it rather than only using his opportunity as elected member to grandstand in this chamber because he makes no effort in any other part or any other meeting of any of the council outside of this forum. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shah. Councillor Quigg. The next.
So you can see she's won the Muslim women over because the Muslim women are clapping like mad now. So the Muslim women who came clearly on a Palestinian issue as a consequence of how it's played out are now clapping for Shah.
Deputy Leader and Housing and Licensing. Would you please let me continue meeting, please? Councillor Quigg, if you have any evidence, please do submit to Chief Executive.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't actually suggest any wrongdoing. I was asking for clarification as to why there was a £2 million write-down. That's a point of clarification I was trying to get at, given that the Hertford Mill site increased in £2 million sterling from its marketed value. Now, the Chief Executive might not be happy with that fact, but it is a fact.
That is exactly what I answered. After the mill was removed, it wasn't increased.
Thank you very much. Deputy Leader.
Councillor AROOJ SHAH, and how, you know, the Chief Executive is trying to have a go at Lewis there, is what he's responding to. But Councillor AROOJ SHAH is claiming that the value of Hartshead Mill sites increased, and he's not on about Hartshead Mill really, he's on about the Fitton Hill site, which he's avoiding answering. But the Hartshead Mill site, she's saying it's increased in value because the valuation done beforehand was before it was cleared, and the valuation after is after it was cleared. They knew they were knocking down Hartshead Mill for years. Like, you don't value it based on it being a clear site. Show us the paperwork. Show us the paperwork.
And Housing and Licensing. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I rise to move the report as read. However, there are some additional updates that I would like to make members aware of. So firstly, in relation to the Housing Summit, which was scheduled to take place tomorrow, this has been rearranged for Thursday, the 1st of February.
Okay, so the Housing Summit. The Housing Summit that Councillor Elaine Taylor and her mates are going on about. How amazing it's going to be, how brilliant it's going to be. Cancelled. Cancelled. Rearranged for February, apparently. Cancelled. Couldn't get people there, could you, Elaine? Why was it cancelled, Elaine? See how she just slipped it in and no one says anything? This big landmark event they were going to have. High profile event, a housing summit. Cancelled.
Obviously, we had hoped that this would take place prior to the DLUC visit next week on the 19th of December, which is still scheduled to go ahead. But it is really important that we have a good attendance from across the sector at this meeting. And unfortunately, given the timing, which is on the run-up to Christmas, that hasn't proved possible. So we have had to rearrange it on that basis.
So, like you did, has Christmas moved? Has Christmas moved? Is it not always the 25th of December? Have they moved Christmas? Were they not aware of Christmas at the time when they set this date? Oh. And I can now see Pete somewhere behind her, Gary, and I can also see no one near Pete. So there's 2 empty seats between Pete and Steve, and that's Amoy sat there, yeah?
Secondly, given the recent cold spell and the drop in temperatures, the Severe Weather Emergency Protocol, or SWEP as it's better known, has now been implemented. And this new provision came into use on Thursday the 7th of December. For those of you who might not be aware, the protocol aims to help vulnerable people who are rough sleeping or at severe or imminent risk of doing so that night when severe weather can threaten their safety. And so when this happens, the council obviously will facilitate emergency accommodation. SWEP is primarily provided via existing provision, utilising funding from GMCA to use a bed every night spaces where they are available, as well as emergency provision within supported accommodation schemes before actually purchasing any additional bed spaces. The council also follows a no second night out approach to rough sleeping, and this programme aims to help people who find themselves sleeping rough for the first time by sourcing temporary accommodation, which will again form part of the discussion with DLUC as part of the deep dive. And I can confirm that we have assisted 9 people so far. In relation to planning, members will be aware that the consultation on the main modifications for Places for Everyone closed last Wednesday on the 6th of December. GMCA and the 9 authorities have received 170 responses in total, which is a much lower response rate than in previous consultations. So given this is a smaller than expected number of responses, officers are hoping to be able to submit the representations to the inspectors by Christmas, together with our responses to those representations. It will then be up to the inspectors in the new year to determine whether they are able to close the examination and issue their examination report. This also includes the necessary sign-off from the Secretary of State. Following on from that, I'm sure that members will be alive to the statement that was made in the House yesterday by Michael Gove, the Housing Minister, where he confirmed that a revised National Planning Policy Framework will be published next week.
Again, all she's doing is reading off a script, you can see. She's just reading off a script that's prepared for her.
But as we don't know yet precisely what will be changed in it and how this might affect the Places for Everyone examination, I'm not in a position to be able to provide any more detail on that at this moment in time. However, just to reiterate, it is in the report, but earlier this week the Cabinet agreed to proceed with the publication and
Has Mushtaq got one of those pens where you know clip down a different colour? Got a nice new pair of glasses there, Councillor Mushtaq.
Of the draft Oldham local plan, and this will run in conjunction with the Places for Everyone proposal, and if agreed will guide development in the borough up to 2039. Finally, just very briefly, following on from some of the discussion around housing and the housing crisis which took place at the last full council meeting, I have requested some additional member training on the housing options allocation process and how it works and our statutory responsibilities regarding homelessness. We are looking to run this course in January.
Taylor, you are approaching.
Okay, so we are looking to run that course in January, and I hope members will be able to attend. Thank you.
He's drawing rainbows.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask Councillor Taylor, a new development of 2 and 3 bedroom houses in the centre of Royton for first choice homes Oldham will be available at affordable rent or as a shared ownership. Would the Cabinet member confirm whether any priority will be given to the many Royton residents who are desperate for a social housing property in the town where they live or where they come from, and write to myself and my colleagues on a weekly basis? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for submitting it in advance. So obviously this is in relation to the former health centre site in Royton Town Centre, which, as you say, Councillor Arnott, has been developed by First Choice Homes Oldham and which has delivered 14 much needed family homes. So, just for clarity, the development includes 5 affordable rented properties and 9 shared ownership properties. The 5 affordable rent properties have all been let to families on the housing register and are let on a housing needs basis in line with Oldham's allocation scheme. Oldham's allocation scheme has been developed in line with relevant legislation and statutory guidance, so this isn't just an Oldham Council decision, but it does have to be applied to every application to ensure that we maintain the same standard for everyone. As we are in the midst of a housing crisis, demand for social housing far outweighs supply. Therefore, the main purpose of the scheme is to ensure that when deciding who will be offered social housing in the borough, the council delivers its legal responsibilities and supports communities by protecting the vulnerable, as well as supporting people who make a valuable contribution locally. So that is why we can look at increasing banding allocations for applicants who qualify under the Working Extra scheme. And to qualify for Working Extra status, that means at least one member of the applicant's household must be working, volunteering, taking part in approved training or acting as a registered carer. and this should help residents when bidding on properties. Now, that said, I do appreciate that many residents would prefer to live in the area where they grew up or where they already have family ties, but the reality is that there just aren't enough social homes to allow that to happen, and the Right to Buy scheme has taken more properties out of the system in some of the more popular areas like Royton. Now, I do seem to remember at the last full council meeting, Councillor Arnott talked himself about how times have changed.
Taylor, I'm really sorry, I hate doing this, and I know I'm going to be in the bad book of many colleagues, but we are running out of time.
Okay, no problem. Can I just say very briefly that actually some of the shared ownership properties are still available if he knows any residents locally that are interested. They're being delivered on a first come, first served basis.
Councillor Holly Harrison.
Okay. What Councillor Dave Arnott asked her, and it's important, I know it's getting late, but please bear with me, and oh, you're still watching. Okay. When you're on a housing waiting list, Dave Arnott wants Royton people, if you live in Royton, to be prioritised, to get added points for Royton. I'm sure Councillor Max Woodvine would want the same in Saddleworth. If you live in Saddleworth and there's social housing being built or shared ownership, it should be ring fenced first and foremost for local people. Councillor Elaine Taylor appears to suggest that doing so goes against the law. Now, there's a national debate taking place around housing lists and how disproportionately asylum seekers, immigrants, so on and so on. Yeah, and then, I'm a brown guy, and plenty of people in my background would say the same about wanting to live in Cllr or wanting to live in Wearmouth. So it's an issue that affects all of us who consider ourselves to be Oldhamers or from Wearmouth or from Chadderton, from Royton. If our families live in a certain area and we have an affinity with that area, then we should be prioritising the housing waiting list for that area. There should be something there. And Dave's right to point out Royton. They were born in Royton, raised in Royton, lived in Royton. Why can't the council house them in Royton? Rather than someone from somewhere else coming in and being prioritised. Councillor Elaine Taylor appears to suggest from her detailed response, where she ran out of time, that the government's housing waiting, the rules prevent that. The system for who goes where in the list prevents that from being prioritised but being factored in. I'm not sure that's true. I'll go away and do some research on that, but I'm not sure that's true. And if it is true, surely a motion should be brought forward by the likes of Maggie Hurley of the Royton Independents that we write to the government to change the law on this. Or if it's a council decision, a motion where we change the voting to say, in terms of allocations, a residents first policy where we take care of our own first before we take care of others. So I'll go and research that. But part of me is thinking what Elaine Taylor is, if not stating, at the very least suggesting, is not true. And before she calls me a racist, what the white people in Royton might want is exactly the same what the Pakistanis in Wearmouth want and the Bangladeshis in Cllr want. And it's the same across the town. If you have an affinity with a place and you're on the social housing list, an affinity being, you have a connection, you were raised there, you live there, your family, yep, you're prioritised before someone from somewhere else is. Let's see what happens. Well, we've been 20 minutes on, and the flag, the flag guys, they haven't moved. They've not moved.
Thank you for the update, Councillor Taylor.
I'm really pleased to see that there are more applications for taxis to be licensed here in Oldham. I'm wondering whether you can give an update on how many of these applications are taxis that were previously registered outside of Greater Manchester. Secondly, how does being licensed in Oldham help drivers and passengers? Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you to Councillor Harrison. And yes, I totally agree. Seeing more taxis being licensed here in Oldham is a good news story. We have received a big increase in new driver applications, which has now almost doubled our numbers. This is in part due to some of the changes that we have made to our taxi policies, but also our commitment to work more closely with the trade. In June 23, the Licensing Committee approved various policy changes which have resulted in a significant increase in the number of applications to be a taxi driver. Before these policy changes, we licensed around 1,300 drivers. To date, we have received an additional 1,342 new driver applications, 484 of which have already been issued after undergoing the relevant checks. In addition to this, we are also seeing an increase in vehicles being licensed with the council. Currently, another 200 licensed private hire vehicles have joined the taxi fleet, which are licensed by Oldham Council, and that takes that total to 1,200. And I have to say, I think we are expecting more to follow once their existing licences expire with the other authorities. I do think this is a really positive change for the borough, as it is encouraging Greater Manchester residents who have obtained driving licences outside of the area to come back to the council. And as a regulator, this gives us more control over the drivers and vehicles who are providing a service for our residents. However, just to be clear, no driver will receive a licence without going through the relevant checks, and no vehicle licence will be granted unless the vehicle meets our stringent safety and emission standards. I also just briefly want to take this opportunity to congratulate Oldham Private Hire Drivers Association on their new office and website. The association...
Is this the same association that AROOJ SHAH was pictured with in the lead up to the election? Where AROOJ SHAH was out with a taxi drivers association, remember? It's like 50 men or so that she was pictured with in the lead up to her election in St Mary's. I think nearly all, if not all of them, were Asian. Remember? And of course she's congratulating her own council who were exposed for giving licences to convicted sex offenders. Who, from what we can make out from the report, then went on to commit further offences. And all of that was hidden from us, wasn't it, Councillor Elaine Taylor?
Are also striving to assist drivers with issues relating directly to their vehicle licence or private hire licences, and I think it's fair to say that they are going the extra mile to secure the best in the interest of their members by providing courses on improving mental and physical health and well-being, and equipping their members, who are our local taxi drivers, with the highest standards
I
of personal safety.
I hate doing this, but
it's okay. I just want to
I'm
drop
already
in.
under threat. If I don't turn up in next meeting, means I'm on garden leave.
It's okay. It's okay.
So please take a seat.
I'm sure that answers the question, but I did want to drop in that she came third in the quiz.
Councillor Mushtaq, see if you can try your best to stick to the time. It's unlikely, but let's try.
Everybody knows I'm not a big talker, so hopefully we should be okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You can see from the report that a lot is covered in the two sides. This is a reflection of the size and complexity of the portfolio. Clearly, there are some challenges, including staffing and demand, although work is ongoing to tackle these challenges. I, along with the other GM leads, signed the GM pledge to work collaboratively to ensure we're doing all we can to ensure the stability of the social care workforce across Greater Manchester. First and foremost for our children and young people who need that stability in their already destabilised lives, and to alleviate pressures on all local authorities in what is a chronically underfunded sector. We are also working well with our partners through the Safeguarding Partnership to better understand everyone's roles and responsibilities around referrals and thresholds to manage demand and enable a quality service to continue to be delivered. Training in schools directly...
He's just reading crap, innit? He's just reading crap that's been produced for him.
Our young people and staff is continuing to raise awareness of the dangers whilst having the desired impact of equipping our young people and staff with the knowledge and confidence to be able to identify and protect themselves and each other from risks of exploitation and harm. Myself and Councillor Goodwin opened the White Ribbon event held here where a number of schools attended, and I know Councillor Al-Hamdani was also there. The workshops and opening performance from the Oldham College students had a profound impact on the staff and young people alike. I attended a workshop myself and spoke to some of the young people for whom their learning from the day was a real eye-opener. The White Ribbon organisation was so impressed that they asked if they could come and use it as an example of excellent practice for others to emulate. It's vitally important that we get the message of preventing violence against women into the minds of our young people early, and I'm so happy that we are leading the way on this. The youth service continues to play a vital role in engaging with and supporting our young people and consequently all residents in reactive and proactive manner. Their ability to not only work effectively with young people directly, but with partners makes them a highly effective team. As you've seen this evening, our Youth Council continues to thrive. I had the pleasure of spending a couple of hours with them last week and was blown away by the intelligence and potential in the room. It's incumbent on all of us to be fully...
Just trying to get the council meeting back up. Here's a Mushtaq back.
Flexibility and creativity to try what works for each individual young person. Issues important to young people are of key focus, supporting them with what they need and aspire to achieve. When the time comes to close a young person to the complex safeguarding hub, we ensure
so the guy's
that
moved.
continued support
for that young...
Missed.
When did he move?
And young people. This payment followed a 4% increase in allowances in 2022, alongside an increase in mileage payments and a one-off payment of £250 to assist fostering households with the cost of living. We remain committed to support Oldham carers and have informed carers that we will review again early next year in preparation for 24-25. With regards the backdated payments, that did happen, and it was backdated to, I believe, 2022. So that did happen. And I just want to highlight, Mr. Mayor, that I attended the Foster Carer Awards evening recently, which celebrated some of our fantastic foster carers. And the important, obviously we're talking about stats and figures and rightly the remuneration that comes with that. But these children and young people have suffered a trauma because they've clearly been taken away from their family home. The next best thing is kinship care, if that's possible. But then after that, you know, it becomes things like residential care. And foster carers, they effectively provide a family environment, a family home for these children and young people. And it's the closest thing these children can get to being in a stable family environment. And the impact they have, and having met the parents, again, it's not something they do as an occupation or for remuneration. This is something they're passionate about. Sorry, apologies. So I will stop there before you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mushtaq. Councillor Ria?
Yeah, it's just Councillor Mushtaq. It's just to go on the back of the White Ribbon event that I did attend. I made a useful contact there from Talk, Listen, Change, a lad called Joe, and whilst he works with perpetrators of domestic violence, he was open to my suggestion of putting together some workshops for prevention of that, so to talk around healthy relationships with young men and boundaries, and I will be meeting with him, so I'll keep you updated on how that goes.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor, and again I apologise for not mentioning you earlier. No, that's really helpful. So out of these events we are clearly looking for development, growth, and I attended the forced marriage and I forget the exact title, but I attended that workshop, and being in the workshop and seeing the reaction of the young people when they were given a task. So basically there was an exercise where you had 3 sections of the room, a yes, a no and a maybe, and they were given scenarios about whether they considered something to be coercion, whether they had a choice, whether they were being forced. And it was really telling, you know, where people went in the room. So I'd hang on. I did also take part, but I'd hang on and let the young people go.
Okay, I'm just pausing there because from what I can see, Peter Brown has moved. Yeah? So Peter Brown's moved. And he's an idiot, isn't he? You know, he's profound. Everything's profound. It's like he's never seen or experienced anything before in his life. And I think they laugh at him now. I think he's going on about forced marriages or something. But I'm just looking in the back. Peter Brown's moved.
And when different people went to different parts of the room, it was them themselves that were explaining to the others, well, actually, you need to be over here, because whilst you might have been presented with 3 young men to potentially marry, some thought that's a choice. So they went to the yes, you are given a choice. Whereas they said, well, no, you're not given a choice, because that's you're being forced to pick.
Councillor Mushtaq, I'm not sure what I'm...
oh, apologies.
What you're trying to teach me today, but...
The impact of it, but it's things like that, the practical workshops and the things you're suggesting, that have the greatest impact. So, yeah, more than happy to build on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
So Mushtaq, that's the mayor laughing at Councillor Mushtaq. Yeah?
And thanks to Cllr SAHID MUSHTAQ for the very comprehensive report here and verbally. But please could you outline the work of the complex safeguarding hub does with vulnerable young people and how they support victims of CSC and other complex needs? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Yeah, it's a very important piece of work.
Okay, so Peter went over there. I'm saying over there in the direction where Shah was. We're here referring to as Flag Guy. And now Shah is coming next to Peter. So did Peter instigate that interaction? Because up to this point, Shah was sat in exactly the same seat he had been on for a while. I'm asking the people who were there, because I can't see. Did Peter go and speak to him? Or did he go for a glass of water? Anyone?
And a key part of the complex safeguarding hub work is working directly with young people who have been deemed as vulnerable.
Okay, so there's a handshake there, yeah? There's a handshake there. And it appears to be some form of mutual gathering of people next to each other there. Yes? No? Well, I can only see what's on the screen, Denise, and it looks like Peter went somewhere, came back, Flag Guy, Shah came along, and they're now about to sit next to each other, and the sitting down of next to each other was preceded by a handshake.
To exploitation and or those young people who have been victims of exploitation. The support offered to each of the young people open to the service is bespoke. When planning the support offered to the young people, consideration is...
So he's just kicked off, and Peter's just kicked off. Why is he just kicked off? What's happened there? What was the exchange there? Shah seems to be saying hush or something to him. Put his finger to his mouth. And it's kicked off. Yeah.
Given to their age.
No, Harry. You know when I came up...
So I'll carry on. So when that support is offered,
would you please let him speak? Would you please let him speak? I support Oldham. Councillor Mushtaq, do you want to carry on?
Yeah. Okay,
Please.
so the support offered for each young person open to the service is bespoke.
I'll play that again. I mean, I'll look for that. But I can't work out what Peter's Peter's angry about this time. Is it his interaction with Shah, or is it something to do with Harry Caffrell, or something to do with Dr. Chauhan? Something's happened there, clearly.
When planning the support offered, the consideration is given to age, culture, identity, learning needs, background, and level and nature of concerns. The support for children and young people who have experienced...
So Peter's used the word intimidation again. Where?
Our experienced child exploitation has relational and trauma.
Mr. Mayor, I think the only person who's intimidating anyone is him.
Mr. Mayor, point of process, please.
Please, can you please?
Mr. Mayor.
Please. Please.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Brown, please, may I request you, please. I saw what happened there. Gentleman has been moved on the side. Please accept my apologies. Please.
Okay, so the mayor is apologising to Peter Brown for Shah approaching him. Alright, so the mayor's apologising to Peter Brown, and the mayor is saying he saw what happened there. So the mayor is apologising for failing to keep Peter Brown from feeling unsafe. That's what he's apologising for. Although from what I could see a moment earlier, they shook hands and sat next to each other. Something happened there.
Let me carry on with the meeting. Thank you. Please. I cannot stop, which is something is legal. If you bring Israeli flag, I would not stop you either.
Mr. Mayor.
The support for children and young people have...
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Provide education.
Mr. Brown, please.
The children are provided with education through direct work sessions, using practical approaches to safety planning, through role play or scenarios, conversation-based learning and reflection, active safeguarding and disruption, emotional support, achieving best evidence interviews, working towards goals and ambitions, being advocates, and applying flexibility and creativity to try what works for each individual young person. Issues important to young people are of key focus, supporting them with what they need and aspire to achieve. When the time comes to close a young person to the complex safeguarding hub, we ensure there is continued support for that young person, whether this be through COGS, which is keeping our girls safe, or the youth service. The complex safeguarding team is also resourced to a level where it can provide prevention, a prevention offer to children and young people within the borough. It is noted that prevention is key, with the team wanting to prevent exploitation wherever possible. It is recognised that this is better than responding to and protecting children after the harm that has taken place.
Thank you, Councillor Mushtaq.
Thank you.
Education and skill portfolio, Councillor Mohan Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My written report in front of Council details the coaching and mentoring support for underrepresented women groups to get into leadership position within our schools and trusts. I have provided a review of recent successful Ofsted inspections, also set out our position in relationship to apprenticeships in the council. I have outlined how we have provided...
He's just talking nonsense about all the things he's done, so I'm just slowly forwarding it.
Just for everybody's information, alternative provision is education which is outside school, arranged by local authorities or the schools themselves. It is a full-time education for young people who, because of exclusion, illness or other reasons, would not otherwise receive suitable education. Schools typically signpost pupils on a fixed period exclusion or permanent exclusion to attend alternative provisions. The total cost, to answer your specific question, Councillor Bishop, the total cost of an alternative provision...
So I don't know where he's moving to, but he's moved.
The Council has commissioned this financial year is £332,880.74. This is a very small proportion of the overall education budget. This is not there is no particular pattern in relation to which schools request alternative
nonsense,
provision,
by the way. I'll get to that another day.
as it is determined by the need of the child. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Councillor Adams.
Following a highly critical Ofsted report in August on the management of SEND provision in Oldham, an improvement notice was sent to the Council in November. Would the Cabinet member please outline what specific actions have been completed so far to address the shortcomings that the report highlighted? Thank you.
Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Councillor Adams, for your question. The findings of the inspection were across the partnership. So it was the findings were on the council, the health services, and what the report did.
So what he's saying is it wasn't just us that messed up. It wasn't just the council. It was everyone else as well. What sort of defence is that, Councillor Mohan Ali? You should be ashamed of yourself. It wasn't just us. It was them as well.
Do is highlight what is working well and what is not. So what we have done, we have already started to implement some of the priority actions. So we're looking at improving the governance and accountability. So a local inclusion partnership executive board has been established with senior representatives of the council and NHS integrated care board to oversee the improvement plans. A speech and language therapy recovery plan has been developed, and this has been discussed at the local inclusion partnership executive boards. Agreements have been sought for partnership investment to support the work to address the long waiting lists. In terms of the 16 to 18-year-old offer, the Greater Manchester Mental Health Board has completed service mapping and identified 16 to 18 as a gap, which is also impacted by growing demand. As a result, this has been commissioned and recruitment is underway.
So
a new pathway is being developed in addition to the neurodevelopment pathway.
Being developed.
It is really important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So
thank you, Barbara. Councillor Brownage. Councillor Hamlet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That would have actually helped that and made the effects much better.
Thank you, Councillor Brownage.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Dean, Communities and Culture Portfolio. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Brown, how many time I can request here? Mr. Brown, how many time I can request here? I need to continue with this meeting. Exactly, you're putting me in very awkward position to adjourn the meeting. Please let me continue the meeting. Mr. Brown, please let me continue with the meeting. I will have. This is the fifth time. Mr. Brown, I'm asking you now to leave the meeting. I'm asking you second time to leave the meeting. I'm asking you third time to leave the meeting. I'm adjourning the meeting, please.
Okay, we'll stop it there. I'll call it a night here as well, and we'll try and come back tomorrow. because we've not even got to the juicy bit yet. It's what led up to the council meeting being suspended, and all I read was the stuff some of you guys were posting. I saw some of the other stuff that some of the Shah and his mates were posting, calling people racist and stuff. I can't see any racism there from any of you, by the way, and I'm struggling, if I'm honest, I'm struggling to see what word intimidation is at the beginning. There's clearly some form of interaction that took place right at the end, where they were sat next to each other, but at the point, what, an hour earlier, 45 minutes earlier, I can't see it. I'll speak to Peter myself and try and get to the bottom of it. I understand that there's a number of issues here. One is to do with the flags and whether flags should be allowed at all, but that's down to the council. And the council has clearly said flags are allowed. So something's gone on there. Something's gone on there, but it's not a but. We'll see. Okay. I'll try and get back tomorrow with the bit that should concern all of you. I'll get back tomorrow, the bit that should concern all of you, rather than what took place this evening, because I can't work it out. I can't work out what's going on. All right. Good.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.